All right, good morning, everyone. We are back live streaming on Saturday. Got a special one, kind of a requested one. A lot of my audience wanted a contractor related one. So hold on, let me just let Jim back in real quick. He bounced off. There we go. So yeah, so we have Carlos the handyman, Jim the grumpy contractor, and Frank old guy REI. So good morning, fellas.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much here just to navigate things. Hopefully we got a lot of questions coming through. But right now, maybe have Carlos. Actually, Jim, you go first because this is your first time on my channel. You're jumping right into a live stream. Maybe quickly give a 60-second spiel on who you are, maybe where do you invest, and where you're contractor in.
General contractor in Sacramento area, California. I've been doing it, a contractor for 31 years, been in the industry for 37. I am investing in 3 burrs right now in Calaveras County, about an hour and a half away from where I live.
Nice. All right. Okay. And now Frank. Everyone knows Frank, the old guy REI, but maybe quickly just give us spiel how long you've been in the business and same thing, where you're investing, where you're a contractor at, things like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're in California on the Central Coast. Santa Cruz is probably the most well known, but we're actually in Watsonville and we're investing in the Midwest. And you guys know we're in a few different markets. I have also been a contractor. I started in 1990. So this is year 35 for us. And residential remodeling, no new construction, just remodeling of existing spaces, lots of kitchens and bathrooms over the years. And it's been good.
Oops, nice. Carlos, your turn now. Quickly.
Yeah, I'm Carlos. I am in the Central Valley, Fresno area. I am a handyman. Been handyman for the last 13 years. About the last 3 years, we jumped in and started flipping on our own. Learned how to get private money and private lending, and started doing flips. And about 5 years ago, I met Michael Zuber. Follow his channel, and here I am meeting with the community, and I'm excited to be here, and hopefully we can answer the questions that anybody may have.
All right. So I guess since we don't have any questions yet, we do. Let's just say good morning to a lot of people tuning in. We got Cody.
That's the second.
Hey, tune. Hey, Brian's tune. Hey, Jim, since you are working on some burrs right now, and like you said, you got a lot of stuff on your plate. Maybe how does that relate also from like you said, you 31 years, I believe, in the business, and now doing it from an investor standpoint, kind of.
The focus changes because I'm a mid-range to higher end remodeler, so that scale has to go way down for rental properties, and that's a hard adjustment. That's for sure, because the quality of product is a little bit less, and then the cost of product is way less. So that's been a big transition. Plus, I'm transitioning out of remodeling and trying to figure out the time frame between both. Because if it takes 7 months to do these projects, that's just not economical. So I'm trying to navigate that whole thing.
And then for you, Frank, I know you're doing a lot of out of state investing and whatnot. So how does that, for you, like being a contractor and then kind of letting other people in a different area, handle these jobs for you? Like, how do you navigate stuff like that?
That was, I think, one of the biggest challenges because, like Jim said, we're used to the quality of our work. And when we first got started investing, we were investing in turnkeys and we passed on several because the quality of work wasn't really up to par. A lot of unfinished and details missed, things like that. So I mean, I didn't have to lower my standards. I just had to wait until I found someone who did better work. And now that we have some rentals, our property managers so far have good crews. They do nice work. One of the challenges we have is not getting pictures all the time. We at least need pictures because I haven't been back to St. Louis or Illinois or wherever, Milwaukee, wherever we have a property. So that was kind of hard to let go.
I think the one thing maybe Carlos you can touch on, maybe is there like a common repair that landlords may overpay for?
I think they pay over everything. The reality is that everything's gone up. Labor has gone up, materials have gone up, uh, and I think the most expensive part for any landlord is the lack of not knowing. That's the most expensive part. Uh, Landlords, believe it or not, have access to information. We are past the era of information. So changing out a garbage disposal, changing out a dishwasher, changing out, whatever it is, it's on a few clicks, and you'll learn 2 3 videos and how to do it. Trial and error is how I learned. Bad experiences, good experiences, just pushing forward. That's how I learned, from a kid who didn't know what a screwdriver was to who I am now. So I think a landlord's biggest mistake or biggest expense is not knowing or not taking the time to learn. I remember not knowing how to do mud, tape, or do drywall, but I was determined to learn. And I remember I there was a lot of guys, a lot of old Navy guys, when I first started. I was their helper, and they would give me a hard time. And but I learned. I was determined to learn. I had a desire to learn, and I think a landlord or anybody who owns a property and has a rental, you have to stretch yourself to want to know, because you may be paying more than you should. And the handyman or maintenance guy or contractor, they're in business to make money. So I think if we understand that, I think that if you want to save money, you're gonna have to do it yourself. And essentially, I've ran into a few landlords in my time where I can't do it any cheaper. You can pick up a guy from the parking lot at Home Depot, but I promise you, he ain't gonna be doing it uh, correctly, or he's not gonna do it cleanly, or he's not gonna look at any cosmetic work. Where I feel like a reputable person, contractor, handyman, or a maintenance guy will go the extra mile to make sure everything is in order, all the lines are in place, everything looks clean after they leave. Where a guy that you're just trying to pay him $15 to do a garbage disposal, he's not there to make sure it doesn't leak. He's there to get paid and move on. And so I think, as a landlord, as a homeowner, or as anybody who just owns a property, I just think that you have to step up and meet the need. And that is, like, how is this guy paying me, overcharging me? Am I overpaying him? um, and the reality, that person is trying to, it's not only paying for himself, but maybe a helper, insurance, all these tons of things that they have to pay anyways, especially since we live in the great state of California. We're- we have fees everywhere. And so, but anyways, just saying all that is just saying, I think the most expensive part a landlord is paying is not knowing. The reality is, we're trying to make a living ourselves, so I'm not going to be here sugarcoating the fact that you're overpaying, or you're paying what that person is bringing. He has value, and he knows it, and he's going to charge for it. And if you want to save a buck or two, you're going to have to do the homework, you're going to have to do the work, and you gotta, and that's my spill.
Do you think though, so like Jim, I've heard you kind of touch on it a lot of times in some of the Zoom calls, but do you think some of that also, to Cynthia's kind of question too, also is that some of the problems in, like Carlos said, you can watch videos, you can see how to do these things. So sometimes people that come to you, they're like, oh, but I watched a video. It's easy to do. It shouldn't take that long. Why are you charging me this much? Do you see that as some of the issues out there too?
Yes, and I'd like to expand on what Carlos is talking about too, because you can buy or you can get somebody from Home Depot or parking lot or whatever else, but now you're taking on full liability,
Mm,
because that is not an employee, that is not a contractor. They don't have insurances or anything else. So now, as a landlord, if something happens on that, whether somebody gets injured, fire, whatever else, your claim might be denied because you did not properly do that repair with a professional. So you have to take into all that stuff into account. Yeah, it might cost you a little bit more up front, but it's going to save you thousands down the road.
You have any experience with that, Frank? Like you're saying, like people, they watch a video and they're like, hey, I saw this video. It shouldn't be that hard to do. Why am I getting charged, this certain amount of money?
Yeah, and I've shared over the last few weeks that I'm learning from Jim about things that I wasn't charging for that I should have been charging for. But real quick, back to their point about, and we talked about this too. When we go and give an estimate, and it just say for painting, right, interior painting of a house now $6,000 or $7,000, and these people go to Home Depot and pick up a couple of guys, and the guys do it for $1,000. They get it all done, and the quality is probably not there, but the people are okay with it, and they think they saved themselves $5,000 when the work wasn't really done right. And and it's been my experience, if you go through the parking lot at Home Depot and you check with these guys that are out there, they all know how to do everything. So that's, they'll always say, you ask them, do you do landscaping? Do you do painting, roofing? Yes, I do everything. And until you get them to your house and realize that they don't, and then to the liability, like Jim pointed out. But that's been I mean, I guess I shouldn't really care about the example I just gave. If somebody will come and paint your house for $1,000 and you're happy with it, then I guess you got a good deal.
Until they fall off a ladder and you get sued for your homeowner's liability.
Yeah.
That's happened many times.
Yeah.
I've seen that on from many homeowners.
I just want to remind everyone, Frank's YouTube channel is in the chat, so go please subscribe. If you haven't heard or seen his work van confessions, I highly recommend it. Putting a lot of great content out there, being very open with some of the struggles being a landlord and whatnot. So hopefully you guys are checking that out. Carlos's YouTube channel is also there. Jim, we're waiting on that. He once he finishes his 3 Burr projects, maybe he has more content to put out. But he has a great logo, so he's already part the way there. But we got Coach Nick is tuning in. He's hopefully one of my regulars on with his Bitcoin knowledge, talking about that. But he's also been on Zuber's channel. He looks like he's a regular on Zuber's channel also too right now. Let's see, Flavio. I guess you kind of touched on it, but maybe if there's any more. He says, as contractors, what is the challenge that you guys get with clients? Ooh, where do you start with that, right? Carlos, do you have any maybe particular advice for an investor that is trying to work with you? Like, what advice could you give them to kind of,
I
um,
think
you know,
I think Mark, one of the best things that I've learned, in order for you to have quality, you have to have two other options, and that is money and time. And I think one of the things that flippers, investors, or just in general anybody, always wants to rush the job and always wants to meet a deadline, which I understand now. I understand it perfectly. When I was young, I did not understand that, and I would get flustered. I would work late hours to meet their deadline, and when I would finish the work, I realized I didn't make money. I actually lost money, and I only say this because I had to come to a point in my life where I realized, in order for somebody to have quality, there's three things go to hand: money, time, and quality. You take one of those equations, and you don't have what you're looking for. You know, for me to make sure your deadline is met, I either need to have more money, and if you don't care for quality, then then you save money and you save time. We'll just rush the job. And so I think for a new investor out there who is trying to, you know, uh, I'll give you a better example. When I first started flipping, I changed my outlook. I was doing maintenance stuff, so everything was like patch, make it work for another few months, especially in the rental area properties that we were doing. We were just patching things and moving them along, or stealing from Peter to give it a Paul. And so, what I realized along the way when I started flipping was that I started doing the opposite. I started buying expensive stuff, the most expensive paint, and there was a point where I started realizing, why am I doing this? why am I doing this? I could save myself tons of money on materials if I would just go with a contractor gray, or not a low quality of product, but a mid grade product. So I think one of the things as an investor, if you're starting up, is understanding that you don't necessarily have to be expensive when you do your flips. And I think that's what Jim was talking about earlier, and Frank, that you're gonna have to balance that. And sometimes, I was a handyman, so a lot of the stuff that I was doing was either low grade or mid grade for the landlords, because that's all they wanted. They just wanted to move on the speed up the project. But when you're trying to sell a property, it's completely different. You're trying to impress people that walk in that house. You're trying to impress a realtor or real estate agent that is showing the home. That so you want to make sure that all the little details are not missed. There's that saying that the devil's in the details. And I have an Israeli friend. He used to say, "No, Carlos, it's God is in the details," but regardless, it's the details that get us in trouble when we try to sell a property. In when rentals, I don't think people see that. They just want to move in. They want something safe and clean. And so, for everybody out there, if you're just new and investing, you're gonna have to try to see things in a different lens. And you got to hit somebody who understands those two concepts, because I can paint an interior house with a mid-grade quality paint and still give you a good product. Or if you could also save money on the type of flooring you install. There's a lot of ways you can save money, but when you're trying to nickel and dime the people that are doing the job, when you're trying to press them with because of the timeline, quality goes out the window. I don't know how Frank or Jim see it, but I think that those three go to hand: money, time, and quality go to time. If you don't give enough time, you're not going to get quality. If you don't put enough money in there, you're not going to get the quality. And so, anyways, that's my spill.
Yeah, you have to give enough balance too, because if you don't put in enough quality product, you're going to be paying for it down the road, because then you're going to
That's
have to
true.
maintain that cheaper quality. So you got to have a good roof. You have to have good air conditioning. You have to have a good water heater. The things that the tenants aren't going to touch, definitely spend the money on those. Your paint, you
Correct.
can definitely downgrade. I just spent $1,200 on interior paint for a 1,300 square foot house. That's way overkill. That's the adjustment, like you were just talking about, Carlos. You have to adjust down to that, and it's tough to do sometimes.
Hmm.
You got to think outside of the box. There's so many ways to do different things, and
I
you don't have to do that one thing. Like I was going to put an island in one of them. There's no reason for it. It's a 900 square foot house. I'll say 1,500, $2,000. Don't do it.
Any day
But
of the week. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And I'm spending a little bit extra money on the yards because I'm in a remote area that has trees, forest, and I'm worried about fire. So I'm putting rock in. I'm putting synthetic turf because I can go up there one day, blow everything off, blow off the roof, and now I have a safer place. It's really easy to maintain. So over my 10, 20 years that I'm going to own this property, I'm cutting my cost. It's a lot more upfront, but it's cutting the cost in the future.
I understand what you're saying, Jim. I totally agree. I think if we're talking to new investors or anybody jumping in, uh, the importance of hiring somebody who understands that, like, it would save you years of mistakes.
Yeah.
Hiring somebody who understands you as a landlord, understands you as a investor, as a homeowner, it saves you a ton of headaches. And so you're right, Jim. Depending on what area you're, like in the valley, it's super hot out here, and you see a lot of dead grass here because people don't want to spend money on water. And but I totally get what you're saying about that. So for that, the advice out there for everybody is hire the right people who know what they're, you know through experience or through education, know what they're talking about.
Thought California didn't have water. Nah. But from Ray, thanks for tuning in. This is kind of on this what you guys are talking about. So, but like Frank, he says, how do you recommend a new investor reach out to contractors like yourselves, especially when they're trying to stay within budget, but are still learning the ropes in the remodeling?
I think it's tough. While you guys were talking, I was thinking if somebody calls me for the first time, or just any contractor, they don't know the quality, right? And for a lot of our projects, somebody calls us in for a bathroom or a kitchen. If they're a regular homeowner, they're going to do that once, right? So if they get a bad person, their experience is going to be bad. They're not going to, like, if they're doing flips, they can learn and pick a different contractor for the next flip or something like that. But when it's a someone's primary residence, it's kind of tough. I've shared too that all of our work now is by word of mouth, referrals from other customers, and that goes a long way. There's trust from the person calling you, and there's trust on our part because you hope your friend or client won't refer someone bad, a bad customer. And I think also, like you guys were saying, you have to, I guess, pick your battles, right? You know what's important, where you want to spend the money. Like Jim said, roofs, higher quality water heaters, or appliances, fixtures, and things like that. And paint might be one of those things you could lower cost on. That doesn't really matter too much.
Not really a question, but I think you guys might have a few points on this. But Hyder says my labor is not just my time at the moment; it's my prior time learning and my ability to employ integrity in my jobs. I think you guys all touched on that at some point on my channel and not. So, anything you guys want to add to that about, like you're saying, like I think some people don't realize that, right? Like they only see like the YouTube video that it takes 30 minutes to do this job. So why am I getting charged this much, right? But they're like they said, it's not just the learning and the tools you might have and whatnot, right?
Yeah, so 30 years of growing systems, of obtaining all of the tools and equipment you need to do the project and to do it at a economical time. Because I'll do things probably a third under what most people do it for, meaning as far as time. So, but I shouldn't be penalized because it takes me less time because of my experience. I should be actually get paid more for that because I'm doing it correctly and I'm doing it in a timely fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many times that I've done DIY stuff, and it's like how many trips did I have to go to my nearest city mill or Home Depot because I didn't have the right tool or I needed this thing. And like you said, you probably have a lot of these things on your work truck or whatnot, so that you shouldn't be penalized for that, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Jen says, has it been getting harder to find good people to stay and work for with you? And if so, why do you think that is? Let's go, Jim. You got a response for that?
Yeah, employees are extremely difficult. I value my employees extremely. It's hard to find people that are willing to work. I don't need them to know what they're doing. I'll teach them that. I need them to be willing to work. Bottom line, if you have the willingness, I will teach you everything about it and hopefully get you to a state that I don't have to keep watching over you. That's a big one for me.
I totally agree with that, Jim. I think I think you also have to understand there's people out there that are just passing by. They're just fly by nights. They're just coming in to get a check or get their money and move on. Um, I've had a few guys that have helped me along the way when, especially when we were flipping, and they see what you do and they're like, "Well, I could do that too, and I don't need your you know you overlooking over my shoulder." But then they realize that the weight of being on your own isn't as easy to carry, and they realize that. And I've heard this from many guys that, hey, Carlos, you did teach me this. I learned that, and I appreciate you helping me out. I'm sure that there's people that have reached out to you, Frank and Jim, have said the same thing, that maybe you parted ways in a difficult way, but they turn around and say, you know what, I realized that I was learning with you. The
Oh,
problem I think with what we have now is that uh, I, I think, well, this is my opinion. This is the first time in my life that I'm in platforms, but uh, seeking this type of information out there. Like if you are going to this type of industry, you're gonna have to understand that we're gonna pay. You're gonna have to pay your dues, meaning you're going to have to, work with somebody, but be willing to listen to that person, not because they're your boss, but because they're willing to teach you. There's not a lot of people out there willing to teach you, and I know this because when I first started, I had to learn the hard way, and there was a lot of guys out there that always told me, hey, why would I take food out of my table to teach you? And that was the mentality when I was coming in. And so that was about 20 years ago, when I first started doing maintenance. And so now it's the opposite. I feel like there is people willing to teach you, willing to show anybody who's really interested in trying to do this industry. And the attitude is different. The attitude is, well, I could do it better. I could get more here. And so they're chasing something that if they would stick around with either with Jim, with Frank, or me, they would get what they're looking for. And I think patience is something that it's a virtue. It's something that people don't are missing out. And I just say that in my opinion. I mean, I've had a few guys come and go, and then I see them again, and we sit down and chat. And, because I honestly, we don't hold. I don't hold grudges over that, because it's for me, it's burning bridges. I don't. One day I might need you, and one day you're gonna need me. And so to say all this is the fact that yes, there it is hard to find good people to stick around, but I believe that if you catch them young and they're excited to enter this industry, especially out now that there's not a lot of people in the trades, even the people in the trades are still learning. And I'm still looking at things where, why did you do that? Well, this is how you should do it, but it doesn't make sense. But that's something that I'm observing, and I'm learning along the way. And but yeah, it is kind of sometimes difficult to find somebody who's willing to stick around, willing to grind with you. And that's it.
Frank, I bet you have some maybe stories or experience with this, but Hyder says another challenge I face is people wanting me to do free shit while I'm there working. Even though that's extra time and effort, just like the contractor work, it's not that bad if tactful, but can be awkward.
Yeah, you guys, that's a pet peeve of mine. One of many, but when I was thinking of that when I saw Hyder's comment. So I have some people that I work with, uh, mostly real estate agents, that will hire me to do something. Just say, go to this property I'm going to be listing. We need new faucets in the bathrooms or whatever. So I plan my day. It's going to take me whatever, 1, 2, 3 hours to do what they asked. And even if I haven't planned something for right after that job, that if they call and say, hey, while you're there, that just turns me off right away, because like I said, I might have planned something right after the faucets that I fit in to finish the day, or I was just planning on chilling for the rest of the day, which is more likely the case. And so I'm like, no, I can't do anything more than what we agreed to have me do in the first place. Um, and then they say, well, since you're there, it shouldn't cost as much, right? Because you don't have to come back to do it. That's another thing that kind of gets you. And I'm really, like I mentioned, Jim, earlier, I'm really just now, after 35 years, figuring out what my time is worth. And it's a bummer that it took me this long, but like we say now, we can do better from here on out, however long we're still in the business. So yeah, I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole because there is some there is some stories there, but um,
Well,
I
that's
see
for
it.
that's for the after the work band confessions, late night editions. You can go down the rabbit hole on those.
Yeah, I'd like to expand on that too. I have a meeting with my customer right when we start a project. Here's because they have expectations of us, I have expectations of the customers. You don't ask my employees to do other work or do side work. You talk to me about anything that needs to be done or any issues that are happening. You let my employees do their work because that's what they're there to do. I will handle everything else. And that's the first conversation I have. You have to educate the customer, and in our case, investors. You have to educate them and explain, this is what I expect. This is what you expect. Here's where we're at. Let's have that agreement.
Nick says and I think Jim, you've touched on this quite a bit, a lot too. Is three things people look for in construction: how fast will it get done, how much will it cost, and who has the best quality of work. In life, you can only get two from a contractor. Pick your two.
Well, you can get all three. You just got to pay for it.
Yep.
That you pay for the time and you pay for the quality. So you can get all three, but you have to pay for it.
Well, so then that's the thing, right? It's you're not really getting one because that's like how much will it cost, right? So
Yes.
so yeah, so I guess like you're saying, you can get it, but it's gonna be at a premium, or not, not necessarily a premium, but you're gonna pay for it in a sense.
Yeah. So you got to pick your poison. You better know the expectations of what you want for your property, and then explain to us what you want with the scope of work, what quality you want, how fast you want it done. Then we will explain to you what it's going to cost and why it's going to cost that.
Let's see, Carlos, do you have any advice for Jen? She says, "What's some advice you have for us to not get grossly ripped off and also not offend the contractor?"
I guess it starts very at the beginning. You gotta ask around. I mean, there's a lot, just like there's a lot of different shoes colors that you can put on a day. There's different guys out there, personalities, and every person there they're going through one phase of the life or another. With that said, is I would say, going back to what I said, the more as a homeowner or as an investor, the and the more network you're around to. I mean, like here in this on this channel right now, you have Frank, who's in the coast. You got Jim, who's in the north of California. I'm from Central California, and I'm sure there's other people out there in Southern California. Each region has somebody. I think one of the things that you, as a homeowner or investor, is you got to network. You got to meet more people. You got to be able to, let people know or find out these platforms and find out who's out there, who's refer. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a way you can say, hey, be straight up. Most of these guys out here, I'm sure you could be up front with them and say, hey, I'm looking for this. And Jim is right. Your expectation, you gotta just, what Jim was saying up front. You have to know what your expectation, what your budget is, and what the results you want, and then talk to the person. If that person can't communicate with you, then maybe he isn't the right person for you. If that person can't have a conversation that is civil, or a conversation through email, text, or if there is a lot of miscommunication, maybe that's not the right person for you. You have to have somebody who's not scared to tell you, hey, this is not going to work. We need to do it this way. I think one of the things is some of those conversations feel uncomfortable, but you have to have them. And I've had a few of them, and there's clients I don't work with. There's people I rather save myself the headache than working with those people. And there's times where I've worked with people, and I learn my lesson, and I don't. They call, they ring the phone. I mean, this year alone, I had a realtor, not from the area, who was trying to sell property. At the end, was nickel and diming me after I did the work. And my mistake was that I didn't. I usually write an estimate, send it to them, get it approved. Once it gets approved, we go through the process as, hey, do we need this? We need that. And, everything is stated up front, but I was in a hurry. I went and did the work. The work was completed, video, pictures, whatever they needed, send it to them. And when it's time to pay the invoice, they nickel and dime me at the end. At the end, I was just like, let's just part ways. But that happens, when you're not up front. And I had already done work for this gentleman, and my wife was like, "Didn't you have a hard time with him?" I know, babe, but we already ironed this out. We're gonna move forward. And so and then it bit me in the ass, because I didn't follow my protocols, my way of protecting myself. And this is why I think that communication is a key thing, as an investor, as a homeowner. And what Jim was saying, yeah, you got to be upfront. That conversation, as awkward it may feel, as you just got to have it. You got to have it in order for you and for that other person to feel right to do the work.
I think this is perfect for you, Frank. Let's wrap these kind of two maybe into one question. But Ray says, if you were managing an out-of-state property with your experience, How would you maintain quality and control and prevent unnecessary costs? And then John, deconstructing dreams, kind of says, I get stuck sometimes with knowing I can do the work and have it be quality, but don't have the time. So how do I overextend or hire out at a very high rate for just my time? Yeah.
I, I think for John's question, if that were me, I would just figure out where my time is better spent. Like you have some guys who, their thing is online looking for deals, and that creates a lot of income for them, or deal flow, for example. So if he's going to pay someone, I don't know, 25 to $50 an hour to work on a project, but he can make thousands of dollars doing what he does best, then I would let the contractor do the work. If he's not doing anything this weekend or whatever, then I might opt for doing the project myself. Um, Remind me, what was the first question?
Ray was asking, where the heck did it go? There, here it is. If you were managing an out-of-state property with your experience, how would you maintain quality and control and prevent unnecessary costs?
I think that ties into what Jen was asking also. So for me, I think the three of us are lucky, right? Because we have this experience and we know what the project should look like, what's the proper way to get the job done, basically what it should cost. I know typically we pay more because we're not there. And our property managers, like I just had one yesterday, give me a price for the two furnaces in Milwaukee, right? And so he gave me the price from the estimate, and then he said, and we have to add our 10% on top of it. So I'm not going to fly out there for $500 and install them myself. So we kind of got to eat that, I guess. Um, and and that experience that I mentioned, Jen, when you're talking to a contractor, and I say it all the time, you guys, if you guys have questions, if it's something I do or I'm familiar with, just call me or text me and let's talk it through. Because if you, Jen, or whoever, are l- looking to hire a contractor, say to remodel a bathroom, and you're going to put in a Schluter shower pan because you're going to tile it, you're going to, if you know, and you say, hey, how do you waterproof the shower pan? What product do you use? I've heard Schluter's a good model. If you just mention things like that, I think when someone talks to me in a more educated fashion, then I wouldn't say I treat them different, but there's a little bit of a different respect for that they've done some homework, or maybe they know what's going on. I'll explain how I do it. And if it's acceptable to them, then we get the job. But I know Jen has had some questions about tile, different types of tile. People don't usually use ceramic tile much anymore. It's always porcelain. Um, she was talking about closet doors a few weeks ago, different types of closet doors. We do all that stuff, so we can give you the pros and cons. And I'm just talking about our friends in this community, right? I'm always willing to help if I can, um, have someone get. And like I said earlier, Jen, if Jen's doing one bathroom, and she hires this guy and he didn't do a great job, what are you going to do? Hire another contractor to come in and rip it all out and do it again? So I would hire, if you can, hire them for small things and see how those go before you hire them for a larger project.
And then if you also need help with removing like mice and stuff, Frank can also help you in that. And then we can dig into the mouse story later maybe. But but
I've gotten
Car-
pretty good at that over the years.
um but let's see. BuzzTune does have a question. I don't know if so he says so. Maybe Carlos, you can answer it. But he says, what are worth buying at the Home Depot's Lowe's? What's better to buy outside for better quality and durability?
Are we talking plumbing? Are we talking electrical? Are we talking about paint? Are we talking about
Maybe you guys,
lumber?
maybe you guys can each pick one category. So maybe Carter, you pick one category, Jim can pick one, and then Frank can go with one.
Well, I think every box store has their low, mid, and high quality products. Um, the box stores have their own brand now, and I've seen that kind of over the years, kind of how they do business. You have a nice brand come in a few months, maybe years, you'll see the same product but branded on the store or the box store's name. And so um, I think doing research in a product. I mean, like for instance, if I have to do for instance some lights, I always go to the box store because LEDs is a thing now, and people are buying those things. They're not fixing the balusters on these fluorescent lights. They're just removing them, installing new ones. If you go to a specialty store that sells lights, they're more expensive. Um, and so I would say light fixtures is you get three grades, and you can tell by price, and you can tell by the product. Um, Again, it all depends on what you're putting in. Are you putting it in a rental? Or are you putting it in your own home? Or are you putting it in a property that you're going to sell? So for me, I think if I would go to the box stores in regards to the light fixtures, a ceiling fan, um, um, and I think there's other stuff that they do sell that they sell in three phases, which is low grade, mid grade, and high grade. So, and I think both box stores pretty much sell the same stuff with different company names. Outside of there, I think I would go to Ferguson if I needed some specialty plumbing parts, or especially parts like that you want to repair. I would go to Ferguson, and that's here in the West Coast. I wouldn't know anywhere in the East Coast how to do that. But the other thing would be, well, I'll save the rest for the other guys if they have any.
Oh yeah,
J-
plumbing is big. Do not. I do not buy plumbing there. I buy it all from supply, because plumbing
Right.
for Home Depot, they if it's costing $100, they want it dummied down so they can sell it for 75. So it's an inferior product. So I will
Hmm.
not buy any plumbing there. Faucet you can get away with because that's replaceable, but an in-wall valve, no way. I'm
And
only buying it supplies. Now
and
I've
I
I've
think
had I've had my own showroom. I've worked for showrooms for the last 6 years, so I know that because I do a lot of work with Premier Bath Kitchen and Paste Supply, so I have contacts there too. But yeah, the light, like Carlos was saying, lights are no big deal. I buy a lot of lumber and stuff from Home Depot. And then one thing on the materials too, I don't any base molding. I don't put the MDF stuff. I put all wood because
mm,
for pets and everything else, it's way more repairable. Yes, once again costs a little bit more upfront, but if you're owning this property for 10, 15 years, you can repair it a lot easier. Dogs peeing, people mopping and leaving water all over the place, it won't swell up. It can be sanded and repainted.
I agree with you, Jim. I would even go a little one step further in the bathrooms. I would do the plastic PVC baseboards. They would last a little bit longer than wood and MDF.
Yeah, I definitely don't do vinyl anywhere. I'll do the LVP, but not vinyl flooring because that they just no. They scratch it. They do everything to it.
Frank, any input on this also, or
Yeah, I think the first thing that came to mind for me was the cabinetry off the shelf. I wouldn't put that in anybody's home. Um, at least, I mean, you can't always get, 3/4 inch boxes, plywood boxes, and solid wood faces and doors. But even some of the, what I would call, like around here, Carlos might know, we have a bunch of large, they're kind of oriental shops, right? They sell cabinetry, prefabricated cabinetry that comes in a box. You can either assemble it or you can have them assemble it, and they don't charge you to assemble it. So one thing that I dislike is that it's not 3/4 inch plywood, it's half, but it's still plywood, and that'll last a lot longer than MDF. If someone's going to put an MDF cabinet in their place, I would always recommend priming it very well. I usually will seal all the corners with silicone when I'm done priming it. If somebody's dead set on using that, at least that way, if it does drip, you have a little bit of time to catch the drip before it starts melting the MDF. And I do use the PVC baseboards too, Carlos, in bathrooms especially. I think they hold up really well, and it's just the Coronado base, you know. So, and usually on those, we'll glue those in. So, because it is kind of hard sometimes if you nail them in to putty the holes and make it look right. So
Hmm.
we'll hot glue and use Gorilla construction adhesive to glue those in place, and they look nice and they'll last a good long time.
Kobe Hurst, thanks for stopping by. I'm not sure I've seen you here before, but I think Jim and actually I think Frank has touched on this. I think this is something he's picked up from Jim. But Kobe's asking, how transparent are you guys with your estimates? What are the pros and cons of being too transparent versus not being transparent at all? For example, giving a breakdown of all the labor and materials versus just giving a scope and a price.
I only give a scope and a price because one thing might take a little bit longer than the next, but the other thing is going to go a little bit quicker. I'm not going to, first of all, I'm not going to spend the time breaking down everything, so I'm not getting paid for that. If you want to pay me to break all that down, no problem. And then I'm going to put a thing in that contract saying this could take longer if you're going to want me to break all that down, but you're going to pay me for it. I am not doing a free estimate based on that. And then materials are so up in the air right now, especially commodity based stuff. That estimate's only good for 7 days for materials. And I do the whole thing. I go through rough materials and I put in the amount, and I put 7 to 10 days only.
Frank, I think you've kind of touched on that, something you've picked up from Jim, right? So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I guess I am weird in some ways, but I thought I was weird about this thought was because I've always just kind of lumped my estimates all in one base price. So if somebody calls me for a bathroom, you know, we do the scope of work, you know, demo, new shower pan, new shower valves, new tile on the walls, new flooring, new toilet, and that's all included in the scope. And then I'll figure out the labor and I'll just put the price down there, $10,000. And if they ever ask me to itemize it, I'll let them know. If they hire me for the job, I'm happy to itemize it, but I won't do it beforehand because they'll just take it as a shopping list and go find the guys in the Home Depot parking lot to do it for half. And like Jim says, that's something I never really charged for, but it does. I'm doing it this weekend, doing an estimate for a bathroom, doing an estimate for a shed, and people, our customers don't see that, right? Jim pointed that out. They don't, not that they don't care about our time, but they don't realize how much time it takes to do these things. And you probably know estimates are the thing I hate to do the most.
For example, in an estimate, you got an hour on site going to look at it. You got an hour in the office writing it up. Then for mobilization, you're loading up all your tools and equipment that you need there. Then you're loading up all the materials that you need there. And then you have to set up all of the protections, everything else. Then you have to demobilize everything and then put it all away in your shop. That's one job. If you're not billing out for all of that stuff on that one job, you're losing money.
True.
Flat out and simply. And that's not fair to us. That's not fair to the customer because it should be for that project.
Carlos, how do you handle that? Do you give like a detailed breakdown or like just a general scope of work with the cost on it?
I break it down like I put demo and what I'm going to do when I demo it and a price. I go maintenance, whatever it inquires of maintenance. So I break it in phases so that the customer, when it looks at it, and then one of the things I use a software. I use House Call Pro, and I've been doing it for the last 5 years with this. So throughout time, I've already tweaked it to, hey, this is for a maintenance call, or this is for a bathroom remodel, this is for this or that, and so I just click a few buttons and then maybe change a little bit here and there, and then the price is already set because I always adjust for, especially now. I don't charge what I charged when I first started. The price also covers the expenses of the vehicle, the expenses of the help, expenses of of what Jim was describing, the loading and loading off, because that does take time. And especially at the end of the day, you're exhausted, especially in Fresno, you got 100 plus degrees and you're working outdoors. The last thing you want to be doing is unloading your truck, and doing it for free, and I know that there's a time where I thought to myself, it's the cost of doing business. But the truth is, as you age, you're not the same strong young man. You're not the strength. I got that extra oof to do all this extra stuff for free. Uh, and then you get wiser as you go by. And so when I do the breakdown of my estimates, it's sort of like what Jim was saying, but I break it into this phase is demo, this phase is the the framing, or this is the plumbing, this is the electrical, and this is what we're gonna do in electrical, and this is the price, and so forth. So if you were out there trying to learn how to do an estimate, first you need to learn how much you value yourself on a timely base, on an hourly base. You want to say, if you're just a one man guy, okay, well, I want to earn, let's say, 65 bucks an hour. Well, then how long is it going to take to do, you know, I don't know. If let's say you're going to be doing something in the kitchen, you're installing appliances. Like, I'm going to install a dishwasher, I'm going to install a stove, a hood range, a garbage disposal, and the client wants a filter system in there. Well, I break that in time. I break that. Okay, well, the garbage disposal is probably going to take me less than an hour. The dishwasher less than, with experience you get speed. You got the equipment and all that. Let's say I top it at 2 hours. The hood range, I top it at 3, maybe 4 hours. Why? Because maybe it doesn't have the vent that goes up on the roof, and I have to spend the time going up there, cutting it out, putting the vent, making all this stuff. And maybe there's something I have to check, and may have to go into the attic. So that's why the hours for a hood range could be more. Um, and the stove. And so I bundle all those hours, and then I'm my hourly rate, and I give them that total. And if they do want a breakdown, I normally don't. I've never done an itemized. I've had a lot of people ask me for an itemized, and I've sat down, and maybe a quarter of the way, I'm flustered. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is I already gave you a price.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Because I'm trying. My thinking is, okay, well, they need to know the price. I need to know the price, and I'm breaking it down, and I'm realizing, I'm nickel and diming myself, by doing this. And so, yeah, just like, here's the price. You want it? You don't? I'll move on to the next client.
Yeah.
And that's the reality is, you need to have the confidence to know that there's a lot of work out there. There's so much work, not enough people like Jim and Frank or myself who are willing to go the extra mile for you. If I made a mistake and you call me, hey, there's a mistake, I'm willing to answer the call and say, don't worry, I'll be there tomorrow and take care of it. Or I'll schedule it throughout the week so that I can swing by and take care of it, because that's the type of person I'm trying to be and I'm working towards, and that will separate me for the rest of the bunch. Because there's hundreds, thousands of contractors out there in the coast, in Northern California, in Southern California, in the Central Valley. There's hundreds and thousands of guys out there, but there's not many guys that are willing to answer the callbacks. They're not willing to communicate with you. They're not willing to go the extra mile and think for you, because a lot of the contracting also got to do with thinking, how to solve problems, how to figure out different routes. It's and so, anyways, over the network that we've built, there's people we've known, like plumbers and electricians, that are like, hey, I've done it this way. And so, anyways, yeah, yeah, that's my rant.
I've lost many jobs over the years because I put everything I know that's going to happen in that job in my
Right,
estimate. And so
right,
many contractors put just the bare minimum in there when they know damn good and well there's going to be additional stuff to be added.
correct,
Now, like the job we're on now, I have some electrical ads because the homeowners got in, they broke out the backs of the boxes to add electrical. I can't leave that. And that's one thing people got to understand. When we break into a wall, if there's something that doesn't go up, it's not met code, we have to fix it. We cannot leave it.
correct.
That's all. Now we've opened up that wall. We've touched it. It's our liability. So it's got to be taken care of. There's no question. There's no nothing. And when it's for the estimates, I do my scope of work. I do my base rough materials, which is your plumbing, your fittings, all that. Then I give a allowances for the finished product, your tile, your vanity, your finished plumbing. That's an allowance item. Those are more broken down to a number because that can go 30% less or that can go 100% more. We just don't know.
Jen says, if we find a new contractor, are there ways to vet them before giving them a big rehab job? This is specifically, I guess, maybe for out-of-state investor. So, Frank, is there any tricks you could give her or ways to vet them?
I've been kind of lucky that so our guy in St. Louis, um, I got referrals from our agent that we bought the properties with on. She has a couple of contractors because she does some flips there too. So we tried the one that she recommended, and he's been really awesome. And our property manager doesn't mind if we hire him to do some things. And he's done some fairly large projects for us. But like I said, right off the bat, he sends before pictures, he sends during pictures and after pictures. He, and me being in the business, I know which questions to ask, right? That's why I was kind of telling Jen, the more you can learn about what you're needing done, I think the better the chances are that you won't overpay. I mean, like I said, we always pay more than we want to, but not that you're getting gouged, is what I mean. So, um, I've always, and I've told people too, if they're looking for a contractor, just use California, for example. I would go to the Better Business Bureau website first, make sure their licenses are in order, make sure they don't have any cases pending against them, things like that. I think that's a good place to start. And then if like in her case, I think she's in Texas among some other places, but just reaching out to the rest of the network, right? There's usually someone in the area that does work with someone, and it's not. I forget what they call it, but everybody's not just keeping tight-lipped because they don't want to lose their contract or things like that. That's not what my experience has been in this community. So they're willing to share. I mean, it has happened in a couple of cases where, like say in Gary, where everybody flooded the market and now there's not enough contractors to go around, or at least not enough good ones. So projects are taking longer and things like that. But I think on a regular basis, people are happy to share their contacts. We're always happy to help someone else if we can. So I would trust and lean on them. People have talked about joining Facebook groups in the areas for fellow investors and things like that to get referrals too.
Well, there's people waiting for you to get to Washington already. I think you have clients lined up for when you move there, relocate there. But where was? Oh, it says KC says Frank, I need ceiling drywall, resilient channel, rockwood.
Yeah, it sounds like he's been talking to Matt. I don't know if he's asking
Yeah.
for me to go over there and do that, or he needs to buy it. But I have never done that. And that's another. I mean, just a quick thought. A lot of the guys that go out and get their contractor license thinks now they can build skyscrapers, but you have to be honest with yourself, right? I won't do things that I haven't done before or don't have experience with unless I find a client that says, I'm okay with you trying it. We can, go through it together and see how it's done and just help me do it. But most of the time, if I haven't done it, I won't. If I can't do a quality professional job for someone, then I won't take on the project.
I think Jim, I think maybe you've touched on this on one of the calls before, but Hyder says Home Defecto has different UPC numbers on their tools. Makes me think they're inferior given my experience.
They are. They dummy them down too. It just depends on which brand you're talking about. Some brands will not. Like Milwaukee is pretty much the same wherever you get them. Most of DeWalt is pretty much the same too. But yeah, you get into some of those other off brands. They're okay for a homeowner, but I burn through batteries all year long, and I have multiple sets. So it just depends on what you're planning on doing with your tools. That's for sure. And then Frank needs to get the press tool.
Well, yeah, I was telling Jim. Well, I think I'm at the end of my career, so I'm not going to be spending thousands of dollars on new tools. But
But that's the best time to do it because it values your time.
you're right, because over the years, I think I've probably overshared on this too. It's over the years, I'm buying lighter weight tools,
Oh,
toolboxes with wheels. If they had a motorized cart that I could take inside the house and bring my tools up, I probably would buy that.
yeah, but you have to get that motorized cart off the truck. That's the problem.
Then I need a truck with a lift gate. So there
Yep.
you go.
Actually,
That's why I hire young bees. You get the young guys out there to be able to lift all that stuff.
Yeah, well, not to get Mark off topic here, but you guys were talking about employees earlier, and you guys seem to have worked with several guys on your crews, and mine has always been just me and my cousin most of the time. Cynthia got on our meeting the other day, and when I first started out, when Cynthia and I were first dating, one of our first projects was installing pre-finished hardwood floors. And when we were finished that day, we got in the van, went home, it was late, and we couldn't get out of the van. We were so sore. So she has worked with me a lot. She's painted and flooring and all these things. My daughters were very good painters when they were in the 7th and 8th grade. My dad would work with us. I had a really good friend that worked with me for years and taught me a lot. But I think I'm not easy to work for because I don't know. I feel like I'm super nitpicky about things. For example, we're working at a house and somebody brought it up earlier. You don't ask the customer for anything, right? Don't ask them for water. Bring your own water. Don't have your coffee cup sitting inside somewhere where somebody's going to knock it over. A crazy one, you guys could let me know what you think, but a lot of our jobs in the backyard, there's always this beautiful fruit tree with tons of fruit on it. And my guys would go and start picking the fruit. And I'm like, if I was a homeowner and I saw you stealing my oranges, it would be over, right? Don't and then if you do get anything, and it's nice, the homeowners always offer us drinks and lunch and all these things, but then I feel obligated. So if they do say, oh, while you're here, can you install this washer and dryer? And they've given us lunch a couple of days, what are you going to say?
well, I don't know how much time you guys have. We've been going for about an hour, so if you guys do have to go, just put in a private chat. You can bounce. I just want to make sure before we do go, I want to get to Frank's mouse story before we wrap things up. But Carlos, you did mention one of the not like I guess softwares that you use for pricing out your jobs. But Ray has a question. He says, what's application or program could you not live without as a contractor that you use for your business?
I use Excel and QuickBooks, but I'm also very old school. There are very many programs that are very good programs, but they're very expensive.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. There is a lot of software, but my estimating and keeping tabs with my clients is House Call Pro. Other than that, I'm basically it also connects with QuickBooks, so those would be the ones that I use. And I'm sure there's. I mean, I see Company Cam. I see a lot of these things. They're pretty neat features, but I just think that I need to control my overhead, and so because you can easily spend hundreds of dollars a month, automatically and not be aware of all these expenses, especially if the market fluctuates like it has been fluctuating, and so for me, I just keep it small and tight, and use the ones that you do use. And there is a lot of like I've been contacted by other apps, and I just tell them, hey, I've been with House Call Pro for I think 5+ years, and That's who I use. I trust them, and they're getting better as time goes by, and too good that I have to kind of catch up with them with all the new features they have. So I think one of the things that I would say is, that's those softwares that I use will be QuickBooks and House Call Pro because they go together. They link with each other.
I do want to remind everyone, Pace Morby will be speaking live in the school community tomorrow. So those of you that have not purchased your one rental at a time event tickets, I highly recommend getting them soon before the his community and Jason Hartman's community finds out. I think the tickets will probably start selling quickly after that. And reminder to show my appreciation for hitting 1,000 subscribers. Monday, I will be giving away a VIP ticket during my live stream and some other goodies that other people have donated. So the Monday Accountability Group has donated a general admission ticket also. So we'll have two tickets to be giving away. We'll give away some Dion's books and a couple of Frank's ORAT shirts that he's trying to raise some money to donate for the Blind Center. That'll be Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So tune in and get your name on the wheel, and Ray and Curtis will be helping me with that. But Nick says, "Are you guys accepting Bitcoin yet? Time to be in the digital gold age." Any of you guys have thoughts of that yet? No.
Yeah, no.
I I
I've got enough on my plate. I don't need to learn that one. I do want to answer Colby's question. What are some of the biggest challenges? Oh, wait a minute, that's not one. Getting started. Where'd it go? Basically, he was asking about getting started in the business, and I would relate it a lot to real estate investing. You have a certain amount of years of suck. You're learning everything. So it takes a certain amount of time to learn everything, to get the amount of tools you need, to get the amount of knowledge you need to run your business.
True.
It takes quite a while, and then you're still learning something new every day. So I would definitely relate it a lot to real estate investing.
Uh,
I, I would
yes.
I
No, no,
would
go.
I would add something to what Jim was just saying for a new guy. One of the best things that you can do is educate yourself. I know that knowing how to use the tools and knowing all the codes and all the jargon and lingo is important, but also knowing, improving yourself, reading, educating yourself will take you a long way because not all clients are the same. There are well knowledgeable clients out there, educated clients that they won't do the job because they don't have to, and that's why they hire people like us. But educating yourself so you can have a conversation with them, because you never know who they will refer you to just for having conversation. Just this week I did a job, maybe sometime last year or 2 years ago, and the client referred me to another client who owns a big company that I wasn't aware. It was just a referral, but it was the conversations that we were able to have when I did that job. And so just educating yourself and being ready to have conversation with the people that you're serving, the people that you're providing the service to. So yeah, I would add that with what Jim was saying. We're going to grow, and as we grow, more clients are going to be more willing to work with you, and different types of clients.
I must have missed it, but somebody must have brought up Backstreet Boys in the chat because Jen is saying, John, Backstreet Boys is coming back in December in Vegas. Pre-sale tickets on Wednesday, August 20th. Yeah.
Can they
Um,
still walk, or are they all in wheelchairs on stage?
I don't know. They still bringing a crowd, looks like. I mean, let's see. Ray says, I carry lots of gear for my business. How do you guys keep your tools and gear safe during a job remodel? Frank, how do you keep your stuff safe?
Um, well, I think we shouldn't tempt anyone, right? If you pull up, like if we pull up to a job and leave our doors open, we're just asking for trouble. But there are a lot of areas where I feel comfortable enough, and I will leave my van doors unlocked or open. Um, and I guess over time you learn where those areas are. But even at your own home, right? I've had some things here where I don't know, I left a fishing pole outside leaning against the garage, and somebody just walks by and decides to take it. and that's my fault, right? You shouldn't give anybody that opportunity, and you just never know. I mean, we're out here in the country. I don't know how many people walk by my house every day, but I would just make sure you lock your vehicle for sure. Try not to, because even like in San Francisco, right? You see these people waiting for somebody to park, and then they just go smash their window and take whatever's out in the open. So I would try not to do that. Maybe even put some locks on your toolboxes or your whatever you're carrying your tools in. And if they see that, it's a deterrent. So we've
Yeah.
we've had some things stolen. I know Jim has too, but
Yeah, last year was a very bad year. It was over 30 grand in tools.
Oh
I
wow.
had we had 2 job sites broken into, and my truck got broken into outside of my house.
California.
Yep.
Nah,
No, that's
nah.
everywhere.
Just
Where's Flavio?
oh, this is a great question. Like I said, we've been going for a little over an hour, so maybe this will kind of be the final one before we get into the mouse story. But Jen says, what is their perfect or ideal client? So Carlos, maybe you go first.
Repeat client, the ones that refer you to other clients. So the repeat client for me would be the best client, because you can. I was taught this a while back. I prefer 10 clients that call me 100 times, refer me 100 times, than a client that 100 clients calling me once. And so I would say the repeated one, the one that calls you again and again.
Yeah, I don't take new clients. It's only referrals or people I know. I do not take on new people.
for me, the same. Very rarely any new clients. And going a little deeper, I think communication is probably the most important thing, like Carlos was saying, because if you can be open and honest with each other, you're going to have a lot less conflict. And that's not always the case. I was also thinking over the years that I've always dealt better with the female in the home. The husbands a lot of times are, I don't know, just arrogant and trying to,
They think they can do it, but they
yeah,
really,
or they're mad because they can't do it. One of the
yeah.
two.
All right. Okay, we'll wrap up with this
Yeah.
last one then. Do you all prefer the client buy material or you buy yourself and just upcharge?
If they're buying the material, I don't warranty it because it is a massive issue, especially on finished materials, to deal with it. If you buy something online, it's not the local companies that can help you deal with that. It's whoever the purchase from in the online. So I know a lot of reps, a ton of reps. So I can call my local reps and say, hey, I need this part, and they'll have it to me whenever they can get it to me. But if they buy it online, can't. Prime example, project we did, they bought an oven. It came in damaged. The company told me to install it and they'll have somebody come out and repair it. And I said, you're nuts. It's not going to happen. So they ended up buying it through me, and it took them 6 months to get it returned.
Wow.
And this is a $3,000 item. This is not a cheap item. So yeah, I do not warranty anything a customer buys.
Frank, Carlos, any other thoughts on that?
I like to be involved in the process just to know what we're getting into, because a lot of times a customer might pick, I'll go back to shower valves. You know, I had one client pick, I had done an estimate to install new shower valves, but the system that they ordered had like 2 shower heads and a handheld, and there was all this plumbing involved. So my estimate would have been too low to install that kind of a system. So, and then we've had issues with customers buying the latest vanity from Wayfair. And when you go to install it, if it's the open bottom with a shelf on the bottom, a lot of times that bottom shelf of the cabinet is right in line with your angle stops. So we've had to modify, cut part of the cabinet apart just so it will fit and you can access the valves, things like that. So I like to know what they're buying. And like Jim said, then the liability is on them as far as the warranty.
Yeah, I always on my material, especially selection materials, your selection materials may affect the price of installation. Because, for example, you get a $10,000 chandelier that weighs 500 pounds. Well, you're going to have to get a special lift to be able to get that up. And you have to have special bracing and everything else to install it. Now, that's not typically going to happen in a real estate investment, but they're the same thing. A cast iron tub. You got to get that cast iron tub upstairs. That's a big deal. We've had to go through windows before.
We
I
may
would.
have to recommend Zuber having a contractor panel at the ORAD event, because Jen says, please come back on. I only got through 1/10 of my questions. So yeah, this would be a great panel maybe.
Yeah.
Carlos, sorry, you're gonna say something?
Oh, I would say I I deal with a lot of landlords, and so one of the things I offer them is that, and yeah, I you have to mark the time you're at the store. That has to be something you charge. I always charge for a trip store, and I calculate how many. You know, people don't realize, but you spend about maybe an hour to 2 hours at the store grabbing all the materials. If it's lumber or whatever the case may be, you spend time driving there, loading it up, unloading it when you get to the job site. So there is a markup on that. Uh, but I prefer to pick the materials if I get hired for the job. That way I know the the product that I'm about to install. I know the ins and outs. And also, that's something you want to be talking to your client up front. Or if there's a client that is really a stickler and they want to control, micromanage the job, I just give them options, lower down the options. Hey, I'm gonna go to A store, B store, and those are the only two stores I'm going to. And you pick your product. And we do what we call will calls. We do phone sales, um, and those options are the will call would be the client went online either to either box store and found the product, bought the product, and left the name, my name, my phone number. When I go over there, I go and grab the product and I load it in my truck and then I hit to the job site. The other one would be what we call a phone sale, where we show up, we grab the materials to do the job, we go to the pro desk line, and we have uh, the rep at the store call the homeowner, and they pay over the phone. But all that I still charge for the time being there, and I think that it's important if you're out there doing this type of work that that is something that is part of your overhead, that is part of your estimate, that is part of your labor, and you should be charging for that.
All right, so I think yes, we need to get Hyder on here next time. So next time maybe Frank or Carlos on your guys' channel. You guys don't really need me here, that's why. So we'll get you guys four all together, and be having a true contractor panel. But I
Yeah,
think yeah,
Hyder was recovering from Alaska when we
yeah.
started this stuff.
But like I said, if you guys do want to connect with Jim, there is his email in the chat. And I'll put Carlos's Instagram, YouTube. I'll put Frank's information. But while I do that, like I said, let's wrap things up. But Frank, let's hear this legendary mouse story for those that may not have heard it and how you almost ended up in jail for this. But
Do
Oh,
you really think they want to hear that again?
I do.
people see.
I've never heard it.
Okay. Well, I was telling the guys. So Carlos, you might want to stop into one of our Wednesday calls. It would be an honor to have you.
Yeah.
But I was telling the folks on the call about a time. It's been over 20 years, but Cynthia and I used to live in Fremont. You know, Fremont, and in our house we ended up getting a mouse, and I couldn't find where the mouse was getting in. Couldn't. I mean, I could hear him at times, and then finally one night it was about 11, and I heard him, and I realized he was under the kitchen sink. So I had been looking for this guy for months, and Cynthia has described some of the killing mechanisms I devised to when I caught the sucker. I was just going to waste him. But anyway, this night we just grabbed a garbage bag, regular black garbage bag, and he was under the kitchen sink. So we get the bag positioned in front of the cabinet doors, and we slowly open the doors, and I didn't see him right away. But eventually, I was stirring things around, and he took off, and he ran right in the bag. So he's flopping around in the bag, and for some reason, I got scared, and I slammed the doors under the sink, and Cynthia's fingers were in the doors.
Oh,
So that started things off really great. And then so I have this mouse in the bag, and he's flopping around, and I was gonna go outside and kill it. She said, "No, don't kill the mouse." I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do if I let him outside? He's just going to come back in." And she said, "Well, take it somewhere." And okay, it's 11, probably 11:30 by now, and what Cynthia gets, Cynthia wants, or what Cynthia wants, Cynthia gets. So I I take the mouse in the bag and put it in the truck, and I didn't know where I was going to go, but on the other side of town, well, in Newark, right? You're familiar with the area. So I go into the industrial area of Newark, and I'm driving around trying to figure out where I'm going to let this stupid mouse free. And then I found a spot. And so I go and I back the truck into this spot. And before I could get out, Newark PD comes around the corner. And so he shines his light, right? He pulls up, shines his light on the truck, and I'm standing there with this mouse in the bag. He doesn't know what's in the bag, but he asked me, what are you doing out here at this time of night? It was probably midnight by then. And so I was hesitant, but I told him we had this mouse in our house and we finally caught it. And my wife didn't want me to kill it. So she told me to bring it somewhere to let him loose. And the cop could barely keep a straight face. He chuckled, he got back in his car, and he drove away. So I let this stupid mouse go. And that was the first time I almost went to jail. We'll have to talk about the other time one of these days. But that's the mouse story.
Well, Cynthia wants to clarify. She said, "Not true. I don't always get what I want. That's a story for another day." But
Yes,
yes, I want to thank you guys for all coming on. It seems like a lot of people got a lot of great information. Val says, "Yes, awesome show. Appreciate it." Jason says, "Yep. Thanks for all the great info." But yeah, thanks for always doing this, you guys. Thanks for coming on. Like I said, Jim, can't wait for you to get your YouTube channel up and running. And I've been joking around too that the winner for the VIP ticket on Monday will be the person that can send in the best audio clip of them pronouncing the Hawaii state fish. So go look it up, go practice. I already got recordings from Val and Flavio. But yeah, go practice, go see what it is. But that's going to be the how to give away the VIP ticket.
Are you going to post all those on school?
No, I'm just messing. But Flavio was practicing the other day.
That'd be fun, though.
he did a pretty good job.
He did. He actually did a great job. But yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, Pace Morby will be in School Community Live tomorrow, and tune in Monday for the giveaways if you can. So
Yeah,
everyone, have a great weekend.
Please get your tickets. I really would hate to see our community not get there. That would just be sad.
Very, very true. Yes. So I'll see everyone Monday, and yeah,